ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters, we live today through arguably the most trying times experienced by the human race in almost a century. We face an opponent, not observable like a manifest enemy, but invisible to the naked eye. Our lives have been turned upside down. Growth of the economy has stunted. Academic progress has been halted. Healthcare systems are stretched and overrun. And lives have been lost. So many lives have been lost. The world reached a grim milestone this week, with 2 million people dying of COVID-19 globally. The UK is fast approaching its own milestone of 100,000 deaths due to COVID. The virus shows no imminent or immediate signs of letting up. To date, it is estimated that 1 in 10 people in the UK has been infected with the disease over the last year, which means the country is nowhere near achieving herd immunity, done so by at least 70% of the population having developed an immunity to the virus. Many hospitals, especially in London, are having to redirect their resources to respond to the increasing demand and growing influx of COVID patients. Some hospitals have reached capacity, and no better proof is there than our local hospital, the Royal London. The accounts of doctors, nurses, patients and their families documented this week by the BBC are indeed harrowing and make for very difficult viewing. But viewed and listened to, they must, as they reveal to us the devastating reality this virus has on people's lives. But with every difficulty comes ease. With almost unlimited funding, unprecedented cooperation between nations, and an army of selfless trial volunteers, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a number of COVID vaccines have been developed and approved in record time. There's no way to stop this pandemic except by reaching herd immunity, achieved through one of two ways. The first, allowing the infection to spread among people without curtailing it. This way does not conform with the Sharia, because it risks the lives of people, particularly the weak, which is in direct conflict with the intent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with regard to preserving all human lives. Its harms go beyond the realm of public health, but extend to people's worship and livelihoods and other aspects of their lives. The second way is through vaccination. This is consistent with the Sharia and with reason. The permissibility of taking medicine to repel an existing disease or prevent an expected one is a matter of consensus among the people of knowledge. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, تَدَاوَوْا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ فإن الله سبحانه لم يضع داء إلا وضع معه شفاء إلا الهرم. He said sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, seek treatment, O slaves of Allah, for Allah does not create any disease, but He also creates with it the cure, except for old age. The point of contention, my brothers and sisters, is whether it is obligatory or not to seek medical treatment. Allah commands us to preserve life, even if this involves the commission of a sin, especially if one is driven by necessity to do so. The jurists say, الضرورات تبيح المحظورات. The necessities allow prohibitions. After seeing his mother and father tortured and murdered before his very eyes, Ammar ibn Yasir was compelled by the chieftains of Quraysh to utter statements of kufr under duress. He came crying to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, fearing that he had disbelieved. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked him, and how do you find your heart? And he said, mutma'innun bil iman, secure with faith. Allah then revealed, من كفر بالله من بعد إيمانه إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان ولكن من شرح بالكفر صدرا فعليهم غضب من الله ولهم عذاب عظيم. Whoso disbelieves in Allah after he has believed, except he who has been compelled and his heart is still at rest in his belief. But whosoever's breast is expanded with unbelief, upon them shall rest from Allah anger, and there awaits them a mighty punishment. And Allah states with regards to consuming unlawful meat, to save one's life when there is nothing else present. فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ غَيْرَ بَاغٍ وَلَا عَادٍ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. But whosoever is forced by necessity, neither desiring it nor transgressing its limit, there is no sin upon him. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. And Allah has forbade suicide or any act against human life in general. He said, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِكُمْ رَحِيمًا. And do not kill yourselves or one another. Indeed, Allah is to you ever merciful. And we are prohibited from throwing ourselves into harm's way. He said, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. And cast not yourselves by your own hands into destruction. And with respect to the legal maxims which state, وَسِيلَةُ الْوَاجِبِ وَاجِبَةٌ. The means to the obligation is obligatory. And مَا لَا يَتِمُّ الْوَاجِبُ إِلَّا بِهِ فَهُوَ وَاجِبٌ. That which the obligation cannot be achieved without is itself obligatory. What is understood is that all the means available to the preservation of life are obligatory and must be pursued. Considering the aforementioned, many jurists included medical treatment, or all rather, included medical treatment apart from a fraction. This is especially the case when a disease like COVID-19 will harm not only the individual, but spreads and causes harm to others. Another legal maxim and also a hadith states, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. There should be no harm and no reciprocation of harm. One can neither cause harm to themselves or cause harm onto others. This applies to COVID, which is extremely contagious. Infections increasing and the death toll rising are imminent, brothers and sisters. They are imminent. And the scholars also say, الغالب كالمحقق والمتوقع القريب كالواقع. What is likelier is treated like what is certain, and what is imminent is treated like what is present. This means that that which is likely to happen, in this case, collapse of the healthcare system and further massive loss of life and livelihoods, it's given the same rulings and concessions of that which is present. As such, the scholars have either strongly recommended or obligated the use of the vaccine before our state of affairs becomes more catastrophic. Therefore, brothers and sisters, it's imperative that we view our situation now with an eye of urgency and not adopt a half-hearted approach to the vaccine. A frightening statistic was published earlier this week, and that is that of the 2 million global deaths, 500,000 occurred over the first 6 months of the pandemic. And the last 500,000 deaths occurred over the last 6 weeks. Brothers and sisters, the matter is beyond control. And it is the consensus of the scientific and medical community that the only solution and way out of the pandemic is through vaccination. A concern that has been raised about the vaccine revolves around its origin and substances contained within. Very briefly, and without expanding on the details which have been discussed at length by fiqh councils, some scholars assert that treatment using unlawful substances, known as at-tadawi bil-muharram, is permissible with 2 conditions. When the probability of efficacy is high. Certainty, brothers and sisters, is unattainable in the field of medicine. Certainty is unattainable. And therefore, it is sufficient for a physician and researcher to base their judgment on the greater likelihood. The second condition is that there is no lawful substance as an alternative. The other position is that treatment using unlawful substances is only permissible if it undergoes a significant change to its chemical nature or physical properties. Then it becomes permissible, and that is known as tahleel or tabdeelul mahiyya. And a perfect example of that is grape juice fermenting and becoming wine, then wine being transformed into vinegar, which is permissible for consumption. With this in mind, the agreement among the Muslim world's foremost scholars is the permissibility of the existing vaccines. Brothers and sisters, it's not just our tradition as an ummah, but rather an obligation that we resort to those of knowledge for clarity, for direction, and for purpose. Concern and fears are normal to have, but irrational fears, not based on any evidence or facts, are what the Sharia combats. Instead of announcing these fears and spreading them and speaking without knowledge, we're commanded to refer our matters to those with knowledge and authority. They will have the answers and they will have the solutions. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, وَإِذَا جَاءَهُمْ أَمْرٌ مِّنَ الْأَمْنِ أَوِ الْخَوْفِ أَذَاعُوا بِهِ وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُمْ. When there comes to them a matter, be it of security or fear, they broadcast it. But if they had referred it to the messenger and to those in authority among them, those of them whose task it is to investigate would have known the matter. The matter of the vaccine, dear brothers and sisters, has been referred to those of knowledge and sound judgment. And the verdict is clear. It is pure and permissible. Take the vaccine. When it is offered to you, do not hesitate to take it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to what is best and protect our health, our wealth, our families, and protect our deen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على الحبيب المصطفى وبعد. Brothers and sisters, during the first wave of the virus, Black Afro-Caribbean people were 4 times more likely to die of coronavirus than their white counterparts. They were followed closely by South Asians in the likelihood of mortality. During the second wave, South Asians were seen to be more likely to die than any other ethnic group. Despite this disproportionate mortality rate, Black and South Asian communities remain skeptical about taking the COVID vaccine. Cynicism has grown with the spread of misinformation and bizarre conspiracy theories. Too many people are now reluctant to take the vaccine. It would help to remind ourselves of the obligation of verifying news we receive. Our religion has a rich culture of forensic scrutiny of statements, especially those attributed to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This tradition extends to all statements and reports and news. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He orders us, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. O you who have believed, if there comes to you a disobedient one with information, investigate, lest you harm a people out of ignorance and become, over what you have done, regretful. This phenomenon of believing everything we receive on WhatsApp or on social media is literally costing lives. Allah told us to authenticate what we hear before we make a judgment, let alone broadcast it and announce it, because it may hurt people and be a cause of great regret in this life and in the next. What if I can't personally verify what I hear? Then who do I listen to? We already answered this, dear brothers and sisters. Those of knowledge and authority among us. Delegation of duties is a foundation of any successful society. You must only speak about that which you know, and only transmit and relate to others what is authenticated. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, كَفَى بِالْمَرْءِ إِثْمًا أَن يُحَدِّثَ بِكُلِّ مَا سَمِعَ. It is enough falsehood for a man to relate or transmit everything he hears. But if you continue to reject the facts and evidence and insist on your position that this is all a global conspiracy, let me tell you something that might surprise most people. And that is, you are free to believe what you want. Yes, you are free to believe what you like. But that freedom comes with a cost. And that is accountability in this life and in the next. With freedom comes accountability. You are free to believe in Allah or disbelieve. وَقُلِ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Say, the truth is from your Lord. So let whosoever will believe and let whosoever will disbelieve. The insurmountable evidence is screaming in our faces that humanity is in crisis, and that taking the vaccine is the only way to restore normality in the coming years. The global community of scholars have prescribed, and some have obligated, as we said, the use of the vaccine. But unfortunately, this vocal minority reject credible, established institutions of learning and research in worldly and religious sciences and choose instead to believe crackpot theories. These people are motivated by pride and arrogance. And two people will never learn: the shy and the arrogant. They have no desire to learn the truth. They are motivated, as we said, by pride. They have no humility. And their ignorance is worsened with their delusions of grandeur. What does this say about you, brothers and sisters, if you believe them over specialists? What does it say about our society if we have, what does it say about our society when we have vilified the very people who saved and continue to save lives with their heroic efforts on the front line combating the virus? The same people we took our parents to for dialysis. The same people we took our relatives to for cancer treatment. The same people we took our children to when they were feverish and their bodies were limp. The same people who delivered our newborns on maternity wards. The same people who operated on us and we entrusted ourselves in their hands while we lay unconscious on a bed. Brothers and sisters, if you were unsure before, be certain now. If you were worried before, rest assured now. If you were hesitant before, be confident now. Turn away from the ignorant. Do not lend them your ear, and direct yourselves to Allah and His religion, and direct yourselves to those of knowledge and expertise. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, خُذِ الْعَفْوَ وَأْمُرْ بِالْعُرْفِ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Take what is freely given and bid to what is honorable, and turn away from the ignorant. Dear brothers and sisters, take the vaccine and save lives. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. هذا وصلوا وسلموا على خير الأنام فإن الله أمركم بأمر بدأ به بنفسه وثنى بملائكة قدسه ثم بكم أيها المؤمنون، فقال جل من قائل: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم، وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين وأعل بفضلك كلمتي الحق والدين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. عباد الله رحمكم الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. وأقم الصلاة.